I was going to ask you about racism in WCW. What are your thoughts on that?
It existed. It existed. I've heard guys who wasn't aware that I was in the vicinity use the word nigger. You could also tell that just by the way the card was done, that the black guys were kept down, the Mexican guys were kept down to a certain degree. I had a conversation one time with Pez Watley, who told me that for years that he was trying to get a job as an agent, and and for some reason I'd never thought of him in that light, because he was never around those guys, and he was telling me, no, because these guys are racist. And it explained to me, because Norman, I've got 24 years in the business. I've been in it just as long as Terry Taylor, just as long, if not more, as Aaron, Kevin Sullivan. And when you sit back and think about that, I mean, he had a valid point. Why wasn't he at least given a chance? You had certain guys that were involved in those booking meetings that had no wrestling experience whatsoever. But still, you had a guy like Pistol Pez Watley, who was wrestling in all the territories. He told me stories that he started with Macho Man when they used to drive in the back of a truck together. So
Right.
he paid his dues. He knew what was a successful chemistry for a guy to get over, but was never given a chance. And now I'm not sure what the situation is now, but now they have a pending lawsuit
Sonny Ono,
against
Bobby Warner.
Time Warner.
Did they ever ask you to get involved with that lawsuit or no?
Ironically, the guys that were involved in the suit were all released,
Right.
And I still had my job at that time, and I didn't think it was in my best interest if I was to get involved in the suit, still being employed. So,
What were your thoughts? Go ahead.
So no, I didn't. I wasn't involved in it.
Okay. What were your thoughts of when you heard Vince Russo quit the company?
In fact, I believe he quit a couple of times, or walked out, or I was disappointed in him, only in the sense that here's a guy that came in and claimed that he was going to do so much for the company. He had all these ideas and thoughts that he wanted to accomplish, and because he met a little friction from, if it was Bill Bush or J.J. Dillon or Steiners and practices, he walked out, or he needed time off, or he quit the company. So after a while, the more that happened, the less the guys had faith in him, because he wasn't, a leader in that sense. So it was very, very tough to believe in somebody who will quit like that.
How did you feel about when the Radicalz walked out?
I thought, knowing Dean, and as I stated before, he trained me. So in the beginning of my career, I worked a lot of shows in the Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Tampa area with Dean, where we wrestled for $50, $40. And I don't know exactly how much Dean's contract was worth at that time, but I do believe it was into seven figures, over the course of three years. And I admired them all, because I admired them as wrestlers, I admired them as men, and I just thought it was a huge step to quit a job, basically having guaranteed money for 2 or 3 more years of work, to go and take something that you didn't know what was going to happen. And that's the way those guys are. And I haven't seen any of them since that happened, but I've always intended the first time I see them, I'm going to say, hey guys, that was a ballsy move that you guys did.
Right.
Because I would have to really question, Conan and Vampiro, most probably my closest friends within the business. And if they was to come up to me and I had a 7-figure deal that was secure, and say, Norman, I'm going to quit, I want you to come with me, I would say, well, listen, brother, I don't think I can do it. Right. Because money's the name of the game. So I admired their move. I mean, I don't think it was something that I would have the guts to do, but my hat's off to them.
What are your thoughts on what happened with Vince Russo and Hulk Hogan at the Bash at the Beach? Think it was a work, or
there was a lot of controversy that night as far as if it was a work or not. So a couple of the guys stated that they heard Hogan and Russo screaming at each other. And a couple of the guys felt that it was a work. I'm not the closest friend with Jeff Jarrett, but I get along well with Jeff, and I asked him if it was a work or not, and he swore to me it was a shoot. So my main thing was, wasn't you concerned laying down that, if Hogan was to get pissed, he'd just take a swipe at you?
Right.
And he says, no, man, I had both eyes on him at all times. So I believe it was a shoot, but in this business, who
You never know.
knows? You never know.
Thoughts on working with Mike Awesome?
Mike Awesome was a big wig in ECW. I really never got a chance to watch him work that much because I spent a lot of time in Mexico. So when ECW was created, I was in Mexico, so I didn't get a chance to watch the shows. In fact, I worked a show last night with Balls Mahoney, and I didn't know who he was.
Right.
But Mike was big and impressive. His style really wasn't complementary to mine because he was more into the high impact, big power bombs
Right.
and big slams and so on and so forth. Whereas I like just to interchange holds. So, outside of the ring, he was a nice guy. We really didn't spend that much time together. But I think he was one of those guys, too, where he got a raw deal up there with Vince because they said that he was clumsy, which, the times that he worked in WCW, I'd never heard that about him. And I think I worked him once or twice, and he was smooth. But as I said, he liked to do those high impact moves.
What are your thoughts on Scott Steiner? What was he like behind the
Oh,
scenes?
those Steiner boys. Scott's cool. He really is. I think his gimmick is tremendous. I was just in England with him. We did a tour there. And he cut some of the strongest, funniest promos I'd ever heard. And just that, being down with the brothers hip hop. He always tells me that I'm the whitest black guy he's ever met. But Scott's cool. He's cool. The reputation that he developed in the early years, teaming with Rick and just killing guys, it still lingers in the minds of a lot of the boys. But the difference between Scott and Rick is that Scott is just so intense in everything that he does. You can tell he's intense in his training just by looking at his physique. He's constantly on a diet. I've never seen a human being eat more apples than him. He just eats. For some reason, I'm not sure if it's some kind of carbs he gets from it or whatever the deal is, but he just eats. Trains every day. He's just intense. He's not really a party guy at all. He doesn't go out much, but cool guy. But the difference is he won't mess with you unless you mess with him.
Right.
Whereas Rick Steiner, you could be on the other side of the room. He'll come over and look. And Rick's okay too, but he's just so mean at times. One day I actually asked Rick, "How come you're so mean?" And he looked at me. He goes, "I don't know. I'm just mean." But both great wrestlers and made a hell of a name for themselves in Japan, which is the best place in the world to make a name for yourself in wrestling. And they've been around for years.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.